Dr. Simjee is a clinical professor of ophthalmology at UCI, Orange County Medical Association 2010 Physician of the Year, and has served on the medical staff at St. Joseph's Hospital for 44 years. She has been to over 24 third world countries to treat eye conditions, perform surgeries, and supply communities with medicine. She has sponsored approximately 20 foreign students who have come to this country to study. She also adopted and housed 14 nieces and nephews so they could gain entry into the United States. This provided a foundation for 34 grandchildren one generation removed, most of which are fellow doctors and computer scientists. Dr. Simjee is an incredible and selfless human being who has deep love for the United States of America. It was an honor to speak with her. Enjoy. Well, I'm here with Dr. Aisha Simjee. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
We are honored to be here.
So we first met when I had my first eye issue about a year and a half ago. I got a sty for the first time, 26 years old, and I remember coming in and being a little frustrated, the idea of like human interaction and connection and looking at each other's eyes. I felt like my identity was kind of taken away a little bit. It really hit me hard. I don't know if you remember exactly, but you were one of the really cool doctors who I felt like you actually cared. One of the problems in the United States and people's connection to their doctors is sometimes they feel like they're just a number, whether that's a personality issue or a capacity issue. I really felt like you actually cared. You gave me your cell phone number and you wanted to follow up and check up. And then in doing a little bit more reading about you and finding out that you've written a book and have literally traveled across the world and have an amazing story treating people for eye ailments. And how many countries have you been to?
38 countries, 40 trips. Afghanistan and Myanmar I made twice on each country.
Amazing.
So 38 countries, but 40 trips.
Incredible. So you are originally from...
I'm Indian by blood.
Okay.
And my father and my brother, sister, they were all from Burma. Except I am the only person who was born in India because it was Second World War. So my parents left Burma with the children. They lost one 2-year-old daughter on their way to the then India, eastern part of India.
Oh my gosh.
And then with other 3 children, they made it to India, in a place where my mom's family members were there. So they went over there and they stayed there. And then when things opened up, they came back to Burma. So incredible. I was born at that time. That's why I'm the only real Indian in my family, the only person born in India.
Wow. So what was your personal experience with connection to eyesight? Like why did you decide you wanted to go into the field of ophthalmology?
I was 6 years old and I had very bad eye infection called trachoma, 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 not to be mistaken with glaucoma.
Trachoma.
Okay? Trachoma.
Okay.
Is chlamydia infection, and it affects a lot of usually children because they are not hygienic, conscious. So they touch each other, they play with each other, they eat each other's food. So the trachoma caused by chlamydia infection spread around in the street where I was staying, and so I got it. So, and there was no medicine at that time, no medicine at all at that time. So my mom took the old treatment, which is to find a young mother who had a baby born, and she has breast milk. So the treatment is to take the child to the mother who had a baby, and she just squirts the baby breast milk into the eye, because breast milk is perfectly clean, sterile, and it has a lot of protein in it. And that's the way they were treating. That was the local treatment. and the co-pay for the mother to the mother who is offering the treatment, breast milk, is to take food for them. You take food for the whole family.
Wow.
And that's the co-pay.
So this was common practice. So
Very common practice. And usually the mothers, young mothers, are very proud that they are taking care of these children who has eye problem. But she definitely wants her co-pay.
And that's a direct application of Eastern versus Western medicine, right? The
That is
idea of
correct.
just using
Yes.
breast milk to
At that
heal.
time, there were no medicine available for chlamydia infection. So that's the way they just cleans it. So when as I was growing up, I said, how did this breast milk help the eye? Well, you have to take it stage 1 or stage 2. If it's trachoma is stage 3 or 4, then it is far too gone. Nothing could be done. No treatment could make the vision get better or the eye get better. But it's stage 1. So if the mother is smart, she sees the eye, say eye is red. They have their own terminology for trachoma, and they will immediately find a young mother, make the connection, and takes and then cleans it up. This breast milk has a lot of protein, and it is sterile because she goes directly from the breast into the eye, and she
Wow.
wiped the eye clean.
I feel like if people saw that in the United States, they might call the authorities.
Right. Yes. That is stage 1. At the most, stage 2. After that, latter part of stage 2, 3, 4, no, nothing could be
So
done.
how old were you when this
6
happened?
years old.
So you were 6 years old.
That's correct.
And then what was your life like into your teens? What type of education? How did you actually transition
Then we,
to the
of
United
course,
States?
of course, my parents and my whole family moved back to Burma because my father has a lot of property over there, and there was Second World War was going on in Burma. So now it is called Myanmar. They changed the name. So we went back, and then that's where I grew up, teenage, and then I went to school, St. John Convent, where I learned ABCD. I was 10 years old. That was my number 4th language.
Your 4th language at 10 years old.
Right. ABCD was at the age of 10 years old.
And where was this school? What was the name
That
of
was
it?
in St. John Convent
Wow.
in Burma, Yangon. It was Yangon, and 1,000 years ago, few hundred years ago or so, they changed it to Burma because British people couldn't say Myanmar. So they changed the name to Burma. Just like they changed the name where my father was born and all his family was born. It was Piemio. They couldn't say Piemio. They changed it to Pro. They couldn't say Sri Lanka. They changed it to Ceylon. They couldn't say Beijing. They changed it to Peking. So it was, and then after independence and whatnot, people changed back to their original name. So
Cool.
it's Myanmar and Yangon.
So this is 10 years old.
Right.
When do you actually transition to the West?
I came after I finished my medical school in Burma. I was already a doctor, and I already have done an internship. Then I went to American Embassy, and I really wanted to come to America. So I went there. I was the first person in my entire family, first person to come to America, first person to go to medical school or college. And that's the way I ended up coming to America. And I came to America after going to American Embassy, and I told them, and they knew what's going on in the city and what's going on with young students who want to go to Bangkok or Hong Kong or Singapore or Australia or London. But I wanted to come to America. Not too many people came to America because they don't accept our medical degree from Burma. You have to
Interesting.
take ECFMG, Education Council for Foreign Medical Graduate. That's called ECFMG.
Is it because the United States saw...
It's a different thing. They just want to make sure that the person who comes to America as a doctor, okay, has the correct information about enough
That
experience
makes
about
sense.
medical.
What year was this?
That was in 70 May.
In 1970?
Right. So I have been
Cool.
in America for 52 years.
And where did you first settle in America?
Baltimore. I went to Baltimore. There's a hospital in Baltimore who already had some people from Burma. So I applied there as an intern, and they accepted me. And they are the one who sent a ticket for me to come from Burma to America because they wouldn't let you buy ticket. The local government would not let you buy ticket to go out of the country, and you cannot take, no matter how rich your father is, they will not let you take any money out of the country, any gold or any expensive item. They just want you to leave with a suitcase. That's it. So I left the country, but I went to American Embassy and they gave me a letter. The letter says I'm entitled to $10 cash upon arrival in United States. So I carried that letter and I came to Baltimore, and because of my tuberculosis history and from Burma, and so they put me into quarantine. So I lost my suitcase, and I lost the flying from the connecting flight from JF Kennedy Airport to Glen Burnie, Baltimore.
Oh no.
So I left. So anyway, they put me into quarantine. They checked me. Everything was fine. So then I said, now how do I go to Baltimore now? My flight is gone. It says no problem. They put me on another flight. From the flight, I came to Glen Burnie Airport in Baltimore. Nice. And when I get there, there was no one to pick me up. I thought the hospital will send. Hospital had all the information about my arrival, my flight time. So I thought they will they will send someone to pick me up. But there was no one there. And I said, now I don't have money. I don't have my suitcase. And my suitcase was lost because it was written Burma. So they sent my suitcase to Bermuda from JF Kennedy Airport to Bermuda.
So you have nothing?
Nothing.
Show up and you have
just
nothing.
just my visa and my passport, my visa, and no money at all. That's most important, money, no money. But I had the letter from American Embassy that I'm entitled to $10 upon arrival. So I showed that letter to taxi driver and I said, take me to South Baltimore General Hospital in Glen Burnie. And this is all the money I have. But if it costs me more to get there, more than $10, then I will go into the hospital, and it was Thursday evening, late in the evening. I will tell the operator to give the money, and then I will settle with my hospital administrator.
And the taxi driver trusted you?
Yes, he took it. Not that he took it, he took the letter in the office, and there were so many people, they were all reading the letter. They probably have never seen a letter like that. So they saw the letter, and he came out, and he says it will cost more than what you have right now from airport to Glen Burnie, but we will give you $2 back. We'll keep only $8, and he gave $2 back. I'm ready to pay $1,000 to get that letter back.
I'm sure you are. That journey. Let's go back for a second. What was it like telling your family that even after your college education, I'm sure a lot of folks want you to be a doctor inside the country and service the people around you. For one, what was it like explaining to them that you were going to America? And for two, why did you choose America and not another nation?
Another case, yes. Most students were going to Bangkok. They wanted to leave whoever wanted to leave the country, go to Bangkok, Hong Kong, Singapore, at the most Australia, and some London. Very few came to America. But my good friend was already in New York, who my parents knew, and I wanted to come to America because I have read Time magazine. Since I was little girl, I used to go to USIS, United States Information Service, which is attached to American Embassy, and I used to use the Time magazine. And I was familiar with what's going on in America, plus my friend was in New York, so I just thought I wanted to go to America and nowhere else. So that's the reason I came to America.
And how old were you?
I was 26 years old.
26.
Right.
You've been reading Time.
Right. And all my family were extremely upset. And my mom cried because they said, we don't know anybody in America, and you are going to America except with this one friend in New York, and you are going to Baltimore, and how far is New York from Baltimore? So you will be by yourself. You have no money. But hospital made arrangement that I stay in the hospital for 1 year.
Were you scared making that transition?
A little nervous, not scared, but I was somewhat nervous.
I feel like that's not a common trait now. We hear these immigrant stories, right? And the idea of going to a whole nother nation, to a whole nother life with one suitcase and just showing up and asking this taxi driver and bartering with this piece of paper that's supposed to be worth $10. What do, what do you think that is like in you? Did you know that you were someone special that had the capacity to do that? Because everyone likes to be comfortable. Everyone generally speaking, they like to be settled and that they evade risk.
Right.
But for you to completely move to the other side of the world and the east coast of the US, I know you said you were nervous, but what other feelings did you have at the time?
I'm very grateful to the higher power. I was full of courage and I had a lot of faith, and I was very sure the hospital administrator was very good to me with corresponding through American Embassy. We couldn't get letter directly from America. You have to go through American Embassy, and he assured me that we have a place for you to stay and you will work here for 1 year. You don't need to go out and look for an apartment, and we'll pay for your trip. After you come here, as you earn your monthly monthly salary, we'll take some money out of that salary.
Okay, so you felt like the business model you were stepping into gave you some security.
Right.
So it was risky, but
Right.
it wasn't too risky.
Yes, not
And you
too-
already were a doctor, and
Right, yeah.
the United States likes that, right? We try to invite people from all around the world, and I think it's even written in our policy nowadays, the amount of people we let in, let's say, that are doctors. We value them in society more, and
Right.
it makes sense.
Yes.
But I'm curious just to hear like the whole transition story. So how long were you there? And then how, I know you ended up going to the West Coast to like UCI area.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I was an intern in South Baltimore General Hospital for a year. After
1 year.
that, I wanted to, 1 year is internship. And after that, I wanted to go into ophthalmology residency. And ophthalmology residency, one of the 4 residency very difficult to get into. It is called Road to Happiness: radiology, ophthalmology, anesthesia, and dermatology. All 4 very difficult to get into. So I wanted to go into ophthalmology, and they said it's very difficult. While you are final year medical student, that's the time they already selected. So, you're already here 1 year behind applying for ophthalmology. So I said, so what? Okay, so I went to Johns Hopkins and I said, I will do research for very small amount of fee. So I did research in Johns Hopkins Medical School, Wilmer Eye Institute.
What were
Wilmer.
you researching?
Oh, very interesting. I was affiliated with one doctor from England, and he was a PhD, not MD doctor, PhD, and he was doing research on glaucoma machines, glaucoma. So I joined him and I did all the work, whatever he wanted on rabbit and cat's eye, checking pressure and then injecting the medicine. And
What is glaucoma specifically?
glaucoma is the high eye pressure. Not always high eye pressure. Sometimes there is such thing as normal tension glaucoma and low tension glaucoma. The eye pressures are normal, but still the eye is too delicate to have that normal eye pressure. So even with normal eye pressure, patient can have glaucoma. But when
Interesting.
you say glaucoma as such, it means high eye pressure in both eyes.
What causes this? Is it pressure inside
It
the eye
is-
that pushes?
Yes, it pushes the eye and it damages the optic nerve head. Optic nerve is in the brain, but optic nerve head is in the eye. And it causes damage to the optic nerve head that takes the message from the eye to the brain. At the back part of the brain, visual cortex here. Visual cortex is right here. So it takes it to the visual cortex, and that's how we see. This is just like a camera. So glaucoma depends, number one, most important is your ethnic background. Ethnic background is the most important to get to think about glaucoma.
So it's genetic based?
Genetic, very
Okay.
much genetic.
And what does that spectrum look like? Who's most
Yes.
likely?
Yes.
And who's
Most
least likely?
is Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana, western part of Africa, and then eastern part of Africa. That the highest level of glaucoma in the whole world is western part of Africa. And most African 200 years ago, when they brought from Africa to United States, they are from West African, South and West African. So they were, because it was they just have to cross the ocean, and they are here in East Coast of United States.
So does that mean in the United States, let's say currently amongst the African American community, there's higher levels
Absolutely.
of glaucoma?
Highest level of glaucoma. Even now, highest level of glaucoma is among African American. And the lowest level of glaucoma in the whole world is Scandinavian Caucasian.
Interesting.
Scandinavian Caucasian.
Do we know
and the
what?
rivers.
So the genetic component. Do we know if it's sun-based, temperature-based?
No sun-based. It's strictly your DNA. Strictly,
Interesting.
why is someone so black and kinky hair? Why is someone so blonde and blue eyes?
Well, the weather dictates it, right? So it's environmental factors that then change skin tone over time.
Yes, but the baby is born perfectly blonde and blue eyes. So the baby is not exposed to sun. But this is all DNA.
Yeah, of course.
DNA, right.
So
yeah.
this is at Johns Hopkins University.
Right,
and
which is a
then
very good name, Wilmer Institute. Wilmer Eye Institute is a very big, not just United States, but all over the world. People know Wilmer. So I did 1 year of research, very small amount of income, very small, just to make it go through the year. And then I applied for ophthalmology, and the minute they say, oh, doing research in Wilmer, okay, so I got accepted in Washington,
Smart.
D.C.
Good strategy.
And then I did 1 year in Georgetown. They rotate, because our program in the hospital was not good enough to meet the standard. So they rotate the resident through Georgetown and D.C. General Hospital. So I did my time in D.C. General Hospital and Georgetown, and then I went to Philadelphia, Wills Eye Hospital. This is the second oldest eye hospital in United States. The oldest one is New York Eye and Ear Hospital, and Wills Eye Hospital is the second one.
You said in Philly?
Right, Philadelphia,
Uh-huh.
affiliated to Jefferson Medical Center.
And at this point, you're 29, 30 years old?
Right, yes.
Okay.
And I did a fellowship in cornea transplant. We remove the eye from dead person and put it into the eye that has poor cornea. So I did cornea transplant fellowship.
Wow. What was that like, being a younger woman being exposed to literally removing eyeballs from the deceased and putting them into the living?
So my attending was watching me whether I will shake up when I removing the eye, but somehow I had a lot of courage.
So do you think the courage, let's say, opens the opportunity in the beginning, and then over time do you just become desensitized to it's just work?
I have done that in St. Joseph Hospital here in Orange. I've removed the eye from ICU, CCU, person died, they call me, I remove the eye, and I transplant it into the patient.
That's crazy.
We
Most people
cannot
will
do that
never
anymore.
experience that.
We don't do that anymore. We just send the eye. Even if I remove the eye from a dead person, I haven't done that for a long time, but even if I do it, we send it to the eye bank, and they have to process it, and then we can transplant it.
So that processing, is it to ensure quality, basically?
Right, and to make
infection?
sure that patient doesn't have any infection, but we get that person's history, and we give the history, background history, medical history, what is the purpose of patient's death, and we report it to the eye bank.
And then
the eye
organ
bank was,
donor.
eye bank was on Tustin Avenue, but everything is closed down now. Now the eye bank we get is in Baltimore.
Wow.
And USC has an eye bank.
So
but I don't do that cornea transplant anymore.
Not anymore.
No, because medical malpractice goes way up with cornea transplant. But I don't do surgery anymore. So.
But you did do surgery for how many years?
Yes. I have done more than 15,000 cases of cataract and different surgery in St. Joseph Hospital.
Wow. And you've been with St. Joseph's now for
44 years.
44 years
yes.
at St. Joseph's.
I came here 1978 January 1st. Started in St. Joseph Hospital, and next to St. Joseph Hospital, Children's Hospital, which was not there when I came. But now we have Children's Hospital also. So I work out of these two hospitals.
So 1978.
January.
Then 78 was 8 years later. You then were with St. Joseph's.
Right, that's correct.
That's incredible. So,
I had many opportunity in East Coast, including the person who trained me, etc. But I didn't want to stay in East Coast for only one single reason. I wanted my parents, my brothers, sisters, etc. to come to America from Burma, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan. So I wanted them to come here, and I don't think they would be able to take care of this cold weather. So strictly weather brought me to California.
really?
Right,
And
right.
you mentioned that earlier, how you like your practice to be warm. Do you think
Right.
that's just where you grew up and where
That's
you're
correct,
from?
yeah,
Your body
right.
is
Yes, yeah.
in tune with warm
If
temperature.
it's cold, even if I'm on call, I look out of the window and I see a snow, and I said, "Oh my God, how am I going to
Oh
do
no,
that?"
is it cold in here? Too cold in here?
No, not at
Okay.
all. No,
'Cause
I'm perfectly happy.
I'm opposite. I run on hot, so
Right,
I gotta
right.
have it cranking, otherwise I'm gonna start sweating.
Right. I'm perfectly happy in California. Nothing could have been any better than working in Orange County, California. And I love St. Joseph Hospital and Children's Hospital. I'm very well placed.
When did the Children's Hospital go up next to the original?
That was about 25 years ago.
Amazing. So you worked on
Yeah.
children as well then for like 12-ish years?
Yes, yeah. So St. Joseph Hospital now has 3 buildings. Building number 1 is the oldest one. Building number 2, St. Joseph built a new hospital around 92, 93. And building number 3 was used as Children's Hospital. St. Joseph and Children's Hospital were together with building number 3 at Children's Hospital. But as they grew, and then more and more, they wanted to have teaching program, etc. And they got more funding from different part, and federal funding and state funding. They built their own children's hospital, and they got separated from St. Joseph Hospital.
I see. And you're in Newport Beach is where you reside?
No, I live in Newport
Yeah.
Beach, yes.
How did you end up there? Because Newport Beach is amongst Southern California. It's
Right.
top, most beautiful
That's
place
correct.
here.
I live in Anaheim, perfectly happy. Anaheim, not Anaheim Hill, but Anaheim Hill, Anaheim. And I was living there very happily, no problem. But I was making enough money now that we can move to a bigger house, so that when my family member comes, they can stay with me. And I need to move to a bigger house, and I need bigger in what you call tax deduction, because I don't spend money elsewhere. So they said, let's move to a new house. And I told one patient of mine, he happened to be real estate agent. I had no idea. Just like when I see you, I had no idea what work you do. I had no idea he was a big real estate agent. I said, I want to move to a bigger house. He says, oh, you should go to Newport Coast. They are selling the lot. You buy a lot, you build your house, and it will the price will go up very shortly. So you go over there. So 3
Newport
days,
Coast?
Newport Coast,
Oh,
Pelican
wow.
Hill.
Yeah, incredible. I know
Right,
exactly
right.
where that's
I have
at.
been there 27 years now.
Amazing. That's a beautiful view.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
literally paradise.
Sure, sure.
There's people all around the world. They see
Right,
that.
Yes.
It's like a movie.
Beautiful, right.
It's heaven.
Right, yes.
So let's speak to that a little bit. From where you grew up, not knowing exactly how the future is going to turn out, and then you find yourself in Newport Coast. I mean, of course, you had courage, you had hard work. I'm sure your parents and family were amazing people that helped turn you into who you are. But the idea of America and the transition from where you came from to where you are now, one of the issues now in America is a lot of multi-generational Americans. They don't necessarily believe in the idea of America and that immigrant story and doing better for yourself. Since you could directly speak to it, what do you think? What do you think of America? When I saw in your car you had American flags, and I think a family member has served in the military.
Yes.
What does America mean to you?
It's a heaven on earth. No matter what happens, no matter who says what, America is heaven on earth. And I said that at least 2 to 3 times a day out of my 25 patients when they complain a lot. So I said, okay, calm down here. You are living in the best place, and we can help you. And this is the insurance, this is the social worker, etc., and we can help you. But don't think you can get better care elsewhere than America. And here, look at the different doctors, all kinds of doctors. We have retina specialists, glaucoma specialists, all from all over the world, even in St. Joseph hospitals, UCI medical students admission, 50 to 60% are from parents are from somewhere else. But the children are born, just like my daughters were born in St. Joseph Hospital. Both of them are doctors, but still they are of Indian blood and from Burma. Parents are from Burma.
Both of your daughters, you said, are doctors?
Yes, transplant. One is transplant hepatologist in Johns Hopkins, and second one is infectious disease scientist, and she is also very brave girl. She's 42 years old. She just turned 42, and she works in Malawi, Africa. Blantyre is the city, Malawi is the country, and the hospital she works next to is called Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I strongly suspect Queen Elizabeth doesn't know where Malawi is and where Blantyre is. And I don't think she has ever visited those places.
I doubt it, but
Yes.
infectious disease. So I'm sure you've spoken to
Scientist.
her a lot about COVID.
Yes,
and
she is in charge of COVID in South Africa. She has all the information about what's going on in Johns Hopkins. She is paid by Johns Hopkins, but she works in Africa.
And they were hit hard in South Africa. Isn't that where Omicron was supposedly
No,
started?
Delta.
Delta was South Africa.
Right, yes.
So she was in the midst of
She's
it.
very much conscious of everything, and she had 220 employees, and Johns Hopkins sent AstraZeneca vaccination for her and all her employees. So they were all vaccinated early on.
So that vaccine it's not the mRNA, right? It's the other one?
No.
I forget the name of it. The type of vaccine, the opposite of mRNA.
AstraZeneca,
Yes.
and then Pfizer. I got Pfizer, and some people got Moderna, and some people had AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson. There are different vaccines in different part of the world, and whoever gets
Yeah.
whatever.
What is it like to have both your kids be doctors just like you were? Is that something you encourage them to do, or did they kind of follow?
I didn't say anything. I said, you do whatever you want to do. But as they grew up, I had a problem. I couldn't afford a full-time babysitter, and my dad and mom were taking care of them during daytime. But sometimes I take them to the hospital, sit them in the nurses' lounge, and I said, sit and wait. I make rounds, and then I pick them up, and I come back home.
So even with the doctor's salary, you still couldn't afford the babysitter?
Because, yes, that's a very good question. At one time, I had 17 people living in my house.
17?
17. I adopted my brothers and sisters' children from Burma, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. And I had to adopt them in order for them to come here to United States. They can't just walk in and say, we want to be here. So I have to legally adopt them. And they were all in my house. And I tell them never leave the house more than 2% at a time, because we didn't want neighbor to get upset that 17 people are living in this 4-bedroom house. So I
Was
tell
this
them,
in Newport?
Anaheim. No,
Anaheim. Okay.
Yes, Anaheim, Maple Tree Drive. And interestingly enough, after I left, 2 years after I left, the whole house where we lived collapsed.
It collapsed?
Yes.
Like literally just fell to the ground?
Not that bad, but yes, there
It fell
cracks.
apart?
Right. So 5 houses in that line, Maple Tree Drive in Anaheim.
So was it just you and 17 children?
Right. My husband and I and my two my biological children,
Yes.
my dad, mom, and other children.
Oh my
And
goodness.
out of that, the oldest one is dermatologist, practicing in Fresno. Second one is diabetes specialist, practicing in Dallas, Texas. And 2 are orthodontists and periodontists, and 1 is pediatric psychologist. And the rest are all on computer. They said they don't want to be a doctor because doctor get up in the middle of night and weekend, and we are eating and the doctor has to leave. So we want to be in computer. So they are all computer person.
Computer scientists and
Right.
stuff?
Yes.
That's incredible though. But they all have a good foundation. And
Very good foundation.
was
Yes.
that to you and your husband kind of?
Right. My husband fully agreed with whatever I do. My husband was an orphan. His mother died when he was 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old, and his father died when he was 5 years old. And he was an orphan, brought up by his aunts and uncle in far away from where he was born. And then he got a chance to come to Canada. And then my brother's friend, he was my brother's friend, so my brother introduced me to him, and we got married. And then he came directly to California.
Wow.
So he said, whatever you want to do with the family, that's fine, no problem.
Would you also cook for everyone too?
Not at all. Not
No?
at all. My mom will cook every day. Every day my mom will cook. And then when my sister came, my sister will cook. Everybody was well fed. The only thing is that they must not leave the house more than two at a time, because we didn't want neighbors to get upset about it.
What year? So you would have been in Anaheim. What year was everyone in one place? Your parents had come over now, your sister.
Yes, 80, 81, 82, 2 came, 2, 3 came at a time. Not everybody comes.
80, 81. So that's we see a lot of inflation right now.
That's right.
That was a very inflated area too. The late 70s into the early 80s.
That's correct. That's
so
correct.
it would have been expensive feeding
Right.
that. So
Yeah.
it makes
But
sense
they
that
took care of me. All the older kid takes care of the younger one. The younger one takes care of the youngest one. So they all were assigned to do something.
you had a
and they
mini
all did-
army, mini
Right.
army
Yes,
in there.
Yes, yes.
And there was never any issue. So everyone
No.
was strict with the
Very
two at a
strict.
time.
Yes,
And
yes. And they saw me working. I worked when I started working in St. Joseph Hospital. We have so many ophthalmologists. So I said I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time, and I'm new here, so I'll take call for you. I will take call in St. Joseph Hospital and Children's Hospital. So I took call for all of them, and you get to know them right away. Then I take call, take night call, weekend call, and I take call. And when I see the patient, I stabilize the patient and send the patient to them. I said, this is the patient I got from your on call day. So this is, I stabilize it. Now you take care of the patient.
wow.
So they were all, that's the way I immediately got friends with everybody. I was the third ophthalmologist in Orange County 44 years ago. Third woman ophthalmologist.
Third woman.
Yes. One was in UCI teaching, and one was in Anaheim. And one was in Orange, but she was getting ready to leave. Yes. So
and you were the single income providing for
That's correct.
everyone.
And my husband was in Canada. He was a technician, but his technician work is not acceptable. He had to take exam to that he can work as a technician. So instead of that, I said, why don't you go to school and get? So he went to UCI and he got his BA or BS, and then he went to UCLA and he got MBA MPH program. So he was in college for 4 years.
Dang.
So I sent him to school so that he gets education and he gets better job rather than just lab technician.
That must have been some incredible work that you did.
Yes.
To literally provide for this humongous family, and now to see where they're all at. How many of them have had children? So how many, starting off with your generation, are now
I
in
have
the United
34
States?
grandchildren.
34.
Two are my biological children, and 32 are from the grandchildren.
That's
and
incredible.
the oldest grandson is psychiatrist in New York Medical School. And as soon as he finishes his residency and fellowship, he will come and practice in Orange County. And that is the oldest grandson. And oldest granddaughter is doing pediatric residency in Children's Hospital, Chalk, Orange County. And she's going to finish next year. She will do 1 year of fellowship, and then she wants to go and work in United Nations.
Wow. So what type of advice would you have for a family that has a lot of kids and money's tight? What's that kind of like morals and ethics did you provide in your household that helped pave the path for?
Yeah. They have to be motivated. As there is no place for lazy people. They have to be motivated. They have to work hard. They have to sacrifice some sleep time, some food time, and they can't have big chunk of food every day. You see that? They have to compromise. They have to have enough food, but don't expect me to take them to big place and feed them.
So the combination of motivated and sacrifice.
Right.
That's
They
pretty
have
interesting.
to sacrifice. I said you have to sacrifice. I have sacrificed a lot. I stayed in hospital for 1 entire year on call room, sharing the on call room with another on call doctor. So you can certainly stay here, and you don't need to worry about eating on a certain time, certain food. You can have.
So are you born with that motivation, or was it taught to you by your culture and your parents? Because so
Not
many
at all.
so many
Yes.
people, let's say, who do not feel motivated, and they're, for whatever reason, they're living on welfare and food stamps, and they feel like the world's against them and the American system is not allowing them to grow in any way. You never really felt it, wasn't never an option.
No.
You were just always
American system is golden system. America is heaven on earth. If they don't progress, it's their fault. They don't. They are not motivated. They have to work hard. They have to be motivated, work hard, move forward, and it is upon them.
So do you think your baseline coming into the U.S., because you were already a doctor, right? So you already had a certain level of expertise and education. So you're already valued, right, coming into the U.S.? I mean, it's really complicated to speak on who's completely to blame, because I'm with you. I totally agree. The idea of pulling up your bootstraps and kind of stay motivated and make things happen for yourself. But it is more complicated than that sometimes. I wish it wasn't, but that's why I like to hear directly what you did and what advice you got from your elders and then passed on to your young. And because it seems like from your generation to then 34, I think you said, grandchildren, all producing good outcomes in the world and in the United States. And that's a good system that you helped create. And you did it through staying an entire year in the on-call room in the hospital.
Right.
Talking about rationing food, staying motivated. Did your parents talk to you about that stuff, or
Not at all.
what was it?
My father was very rich man. He was number 6 richest man in Myanmar, Burma, when I left.
Oh,
but
so you can't. Your father was wealthy.
Very wealthy.
What did he do?
He business, strictly business. Never went to school. Strictly businessman. And a town.
Stay there.
Okay. A town 180 miles northwest of Rangoon. Now Yangon or Rangoon. 180 miles northwest. That's where he was born, and he was a businessman. He and his older brothers and his father and grandfather, they moved from India to that place in 1860, and they progressed. They are very hardworking,
Wow.
typical Indian
So
thing.
even though he was a successful businessman, he never talked to you about successes? Was it the culture at that
No.
time suppressed women in a certain
very
way?
much suppressed women. Women, when by the time you are teenager, you learn to sew, you learn to cook, and your parents will get you married to some guy, and that's the way life was. That's the way my 2 sisters are.
Arranged.
That's right, my arranged marriage. My
Wow.
brother and my 2 older sisters all went through arranged marriage, but I refuse. I don't know.
When did you start refusing? What?
I was already in college, and proposal comes, and I said, no, I don't want to. I will run away, although I don't know where I'm going to run away, in a small town.
So did they approve of you going to college, though,
Yes,
to become?
they approved, yes.
Okay. And
They were very happy with the 2 sisters. They were married to, fairly rich family. And my brother was married to a very nice girl. So they were satisfied with that. So they felt that let this little one go. I'm the
Interesting.
youngest
So
one
it's
in the family.
the youngest. So
yes.
it was almost pure luck, because you didn't know when you were born. You
That's
didn't know
correct.
if you were going to be youngest,
That's
oldest, in the
correct,
middle. So just the situation, they're like, oh, you know what?
Yes.
We're going to let Aisha just
Yes.
kind of do what she wants. So
Right.
that gave you the freedom. So you had a little bit of freedom there. What was it in you that sparked, like, oh, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go across the world. I mean, because it speaks to something amazing. And I don't, were you born with it? Because you said you didn't have your parents encouraging this motivational factor in
Absolutely
you.
not. That is completely.
It was your choice.
Right. Against the culture. Girls don't go to school. In our tribe, I'm not talking about all the people in in the city. But in our tribe of Indian background, living in Burma, the girls, they don't go to college. They don't even go to high school. I was the first person in my entire tribe to pass high school. First person to go to college. First person to go to medical school.
You said tribe.
Tribe.
So you grew up in the outskirts of the city?
No. This is Indian.
A term?
Yes, Indian.
How many folks were in your tribe? How many people?
Just Simjis, there more than 500.
Wow, that's still
Right,
very
yeah,
small.
Yeah. But there's other people we belong to the same, not Simjis, but same background of India. They call Surti, Surtee, Surti. Surti from Surat.
So what type of motivational conversations do you have with your patients? You mentioned when people come in and sometimes complain, and the lack of perspective sometimes of understanding that you are on American soil, you're in a facility that's one of the most advanced in the world. You're speaking to a doctor who has expertise in all these levels taking care of you. But I remember exactly how I felt too. We're creatures of habit, everything's smooth. And as soon as this little ailment happened and I had this thing on my eye, I'm like, this is terrible. But I love talking to people like you, though, because you put it in perspective of what things could really be like. So first off, what conversations do you have with some of your patients to make them appreciate the medical system and being in America? And then secondly, I want to talk about what you've seen in other third world countries when you've traveled and have seen what it could be like.
I mentioned once in a while, what I have seen in Africa, what I have seen in South America, Indian tribe, American Red Indian tribe. I've worked in 7 or 8 different type of Indian tribe. And I tell them that, see, we are very lucky. You have all kinds of resources. We have machine to make a diagnosis. We have medicine to treat you. You are going to be fine. I reassure them. But there are some diseases you can. I said, this is a DNA-related disease. This is age-related disease. I cannot cure you, but I can make such that you continue to see for the rest of your life. At least some functioning vision, if not perfect vision.
So people in the U.S., is the U.S. good with keeping eyesight? Or are statistics good?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
How many people per year lose their eyesight? Do you know, generally speaking?
Oh, I do not know, but we have 50 of legally blind people, not medically blind, but legally blind people. Out of 100 legally blind people, 56% are legally blind because of macular degeneration. 18% are legally blind because of glaucoma, ignored, untreated or poorly treated glaucoma. And 15% are legally blind because of diabetes getting into the eye. So, macular degeneration.
What is that defined as? Because that's the most common. You said 56%?
Of
what is macular?
Macular degeneration. Macula in the eye is the spot where 96% of your vision comes from macula. When you see things, that comes from 96% of your vision comes from macula. Another 4% comes from surrounding part of macula. Macula has visual axis of vision. Bush used to say axis of evil. He got it from ophthalmology, I think. We call it axis of vision.
Interesting.
We have axis of vision, and that axis comes from macula outside. So,
does this just...
Right.
Does it go away over time? Is it a part of aging? Is
right,
macular
aging.
degeneration?
That's why it called ARMD. ARMD, age-related macular degeneration.
And
it doesn't matter whether you are black, white, or brown. It can happen age-related. I have all the statistics. 5% after age 55, 10% after 65, 33% after 75.
Do we have a way of preventing or treating it?
Unfortunately, you are asking me $1 million question, but no. Answer is no. It's age-related. Just like we have no way to treat hair becoming gray, or face becoming wrinkled, or tummy gets fat, or you wake up in the middle of night, to go to bathroom.
So is it
These
just...
are age-related. That's why it's called ARMD, age-related macular degeneration.
Have you heard about the new bacterial treatments. They're injecting some sort of bacteria in your eye that could bring back eyesight.
Right. It is all at the research stage. We don't have any definitive answer yet. For macular degeneration also, they are injecting Eylea, 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 injecting in the eye to stop the macular degeneration. If it is dry, nothing could be done. 90% of macular degenerations are dry. 10% are wet. Wet is the only macular degeneration you can treat by giving injection in the eye to dry it off.
What do you think about the concept of the eyeballs being an extension of your brain?
Sure.
I think it was the last item to develop in the evolutionary process, because it really is. I forget where I've heard this from. I believe it was another doctor who was describing the idea that your eyes are literally an extension of your brain just outside your skull.
That is correct. The eyeball is connected to the brain with optic nerve. Optic nerve head is in the eye, and then optic nerve head connects the eyeball to the brain. So this is just extension of the brain. That is correct. It gets affected very easily with diabetes. Diabetes affect 3 parts of the body most. From head to toe, it can affect any part of the body, but 3 parts of the body gets affected most with diabetes: eyes, kidneys, and feet. Eyes, kidneys, and feet.
Do you know why the eyes get affected?
Because that's the way it is. The diabetes,
flow,
a new blood vessel grows in the eye. Macula, which carries 96% of the vision, becomes swelling of macula, swollen macula or macular edema caused by these conditions. So they have this macular degeneration, age-related macular degeneration. It is strictly age-related. And diabetes in the eye causes new blood vessels. We call neovascularization. So if you strain, at whatever reason you strain, your you hypertension, you get upset, you run a lot, or whatever does, the blood pressure rises up and the new blood vessel in the eye, neovascularization, ruptures and the eye becomes a bag of blood.
Whoa. You know, I often think about what life would have been like for people with poor vision before glasses. So Grant, can you look up real quick when reading glasses or glasses were invented? Because think of it, when through our evolution, people's eyesight went poor, and how would you get food? Like, I imagine people around you would just take care of you and whatnot.
That's correct. That is correct.
Have you ever thought about that?
Cataract surgery. There was no cataract surgery and no glasses.
So while archaeologists have found documents detailing optical themed works that date all the way back to 1000 BC, evidence of spectacles doesn't occur in art or other historical records until the 13th century in northern Italy. So the northern Italians,
Greek and Italian were very much ahead of ophthalmology. Greek and Italian.
I wonder why. The resources in that world just...
Yeah. Greek were very much ahead of all specialty of medicine. Greek were very much ahead. Greek and Egypt and China. Egyptian were also very good with ophthalmology. I went to Cairo and I paid extra money because I wanted to see something they don't show to people anymore. At the back of the museum, and I said, I really want to go and see because I've read about it. There were 8 feet by 8 feet stones, and the treatment of eye was all carved.
Wow. You saw...
Yes, I saw that.
You saw the treatments
Cairo.
carved in stone.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. What was it like going to... It was Afghanistan, right? After 9/11?
Yes.
You went to help treat people with eye issues?
Yes. Plenty of eye infection. But before I get to eye infection, taking care of them, they needed food. But I take one trunk full, 155-pound full of all dry food.
And were you there? Were you there to help the Afghani people, or was it U.S. soldiers, or what were you doing?
No soldiers. No. American soldiers have their own, help. These are all children, women, people living on the street sides, and a woman, Mary Roach, a Caucasian nurse from Idaho, was there, and I stayed with her, and then we had two people from Australia, and Tim, his name was Tim, and then his wife. They are from one is from London, one is from Melbourne, Australia, and they were there, and I stayed with them, and they let me go and stay with them, and then I go out and take care of the patient.
And this would have been in 2001 or 2002? Because you went twice, right? And then you went back in 2009.
Right. Yes.
So was this after? I mean, you just constantly are servicing people, and I know as a doctor you do it internally, but then you have this giant family in your home. Was it like once they were ready to go off, did you feel a need to go around the world and help people? What?
Yes, I wanted to do it, but first I have to take care of someone in our own backyard, So when then their parents came and they started working. They moved to their apartment and houses, etc. So I had time. So then I started going out. Of 91, the first trip I made was 91 in South America.
What is your philosophy on that idea you just brought up, servicing Americans and people on our soil before going and lending aid elsewhere?
Yes.
Because it's a hot topic, not just in politics and in general, the idea of, let's say, taking care of homeless and sick people here
in our backyard
before we go lend resources elsewhere.
I like to do that. But the problem here, even if you do 100% free, give medicine 100% free, do surgery 100% free, still if there's a mistake, lawyers are there, unfortunately.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of...
And that discourages you. When I started working in La Amistad de San Jose Clinic, Spanish, Friends of St. Joseph Clinic, when I started working, there was a signboard on the door. If you need a lawyer, let us know. We'll give you the phone number of lawyer. I told them, you have to remove this sign, otherwise I'm not coming. So they removed that.
So you think a lot more people would lend free aid if they weren't worried about lawsuits and whatnot?
That's correct.
Never thought of that before. That's interesting.
Yes. Even if you do everything free, if there's a mistake, a lawyer can sue you.
But if you go lend aid elsewhere, you don't have to worry about lawsuit.
You don't even have to have any chart.
And you're still
I write
helping.
down and I give it to local nurses. But no problem. I go ahead and help. You think I never made mistake? I've won hundreds and hundreds of patients. I'm sure I made some mistakes somewhere along the line. But there's no lawyer. You go ahead and help them out of goodness of your heart.
So would you actually perform surgery elsewhere in other countries?
Yes, I've done cornea transplant.
That was your specialty?
Yes, but I do cataract. I don't do cornea transplant as often because it's hard to get corneas. And I went to Vietnam in 1995 or so. I went to Vietnam and I worked there, and there were so many people who needed cornea transplant. And there was a woman doctor who was trained in Moscow to do anterior segment surgery, cataract and cornea transplant. But he says, we don't have any cornea. So I said, there's a mortuary next door. Let's see if there are dead people. We will remove the eye and we'll sew up the eyelid so people will not know that the eye is missing. The eyeball is missing. You sew up the lid, so eye is missing. Get their permission. Let's go ahead and do that. They said it will be very difficult to get permission because most of them are Buddhists and they have their religious belief. So go and talk to the monk. So I went to the monk. And the monk is sitting there. I went on the floor, and I grew up in Burma. I know Theravada, Maharana, Vijayarana Buddhism. So most of them are Theravada. So I talked to the monk and I said, I'm a cornea transplant surgeon. I can help the patient if you let me remove the eye from the dead person. They just died. The eye is going to be, cremated or a funeral, so let me go ahead and remove that. So he says, no, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. The monk will not let me. He says, I cannot let you do that. I call our office here, and they said we get Australia. They call Australia Sydney, and Sydney Eye Bank sent me eyes.
It's crazy how certain philosophies and religion prevent prevent using resources to help the living.
Yes.
I think
yes.
with Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, you can't do blood transfusions.
So you must die without blood transfusion? If you have blood problem, then what?
Are you yourself, are you religious at all? Did you grow up religious or believing in a God?
Yes. I come from an extremely religious family, and I think of, and I say hello to the guy up above, but I'm not follow every religious order. I cannot do that. No, I'm too busy.
So in your opinion, no, of course, just speaking to like using the resources of a deceased individual to help better the life of a living person.
Yes.
You would be like, that's
I have donated my heart, liver,
permissible.
bone marrow, everything.
Yeah,
I've donated. When I die, they will go ahead and get whatever they want from my skin.
But you would argue that that's permissible in the eyes of God. Like, why would he not want?
No, God wants us to do that. That's why he gave us education. That's why he put brain into our head to get educated and use our education.
Did the idea of this higher power and God ever help get you through dark times or motivate you to be a better individual?
Yeah, I say hello to him every day. I text message. He's very busy with COVID patient.
I
believe in higher power, but I'm not religious, strictly religious. Don't do this, do that. No, I don't have time for that.
Just more of being a good person.
Yes, a good person is plenty good. And I grew up in Burma among Theravada Buddhism. And then I went to school, St. John Convent, to learn English. So I was exposed to Catholicism, I was exposed to Theravada Buddhism, and Hindu, friends were Hindu. I was exposed to all the religion.
So what do you think about macular degeneration and cells degenerating and growing old? But like, what did God do with that? Like, why did he allow all the bad things you've seen, right? So you've seen amazing things. I'm sure you've experienced incredible situations helping people all around the world. But then you've also seen really bad things too.
Right, many things. Many times I have seen them. I said, what did these children do not to have enough food? But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Unfortunately.
Do you ever ask yourself why? Why is it that way?
I ask. Every now and then I ask. But there's no answer. So you move on. You just move on with whatever you have, whatever ability you have to help the people around you.
In America, there's been a lot of turmoil around the future and whether we're heading into the right direction. From your story and your experience and the wisdom you've gained through life, where do you think the nation's going? Do you have hope? Do you think we're heading in the right direction? What positives do you see? What negatives do you see in the youth?
I see all mostly positive. We are moving in the right direction. We are going to be fine. Few things will happen, a little bit here and there. You can't have a perfect country, perfect life, perfect everything. But we are moving in the right direction. We have some politicians, they do something which is good for their politics, which is good for them to win the election. But that's it. We are going to be fine. I'm very optimistic. Everything is going to be fine. I'm just very, very optimistic.
What do you love most about America? What breeds this optimism in the American system for you?
Liberty. Look at that. People coming from Timbuktu move here and they start criticizing whoever they don't like it. They can go and they can say whatever they want to say. This is liberty.
Liberty?
Yes.
The freedom?
Right. Freedom, liberty. And so much. The sad thing I don't like about America is waste of food. Food wasting. Why do they have to? I see that. I see day in and day out. They take that much food and then they don't finish it, they throw it away. Why don't you take it home and give it to your gatekeeper or give it to your children or give it to your cleaning lady or just warm it up and eat it next day? What's wrong? No. They think they live in Buckingham Palace, they cannot eat anything left over. What's wrong?
You're right. I personally love leftovers. So right. I hate wasting anything.
Right.
But I've seen so many people who just, I'm done with that, throw it away.
In the United States, 52 billion, be like in boy, $1 billion worth of food every year gets wasted.
I wonder why there's not
52 billion.
a massive government program or even
Right.
the private industry that hasn't taken that over to recycle and
That's right. If there's
recycle
anything
food
I
and
like
feed the
to
poor.
do is to tell people, especially young mothers and children, not to waste food. I don't mean that they must eat a spoiled food. No, then they will get food poisoning. But just don't waste food. And it's okay to warm up the food next day and eat it. Food is what we are working for, is food, and our life is around it. So you can't afford to throw away some food. I especially go for a buffet breakfast to see people take so much food. They can go back and take some more later on and eat it.
So don't be wasteful.
Wasteful. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Wasting.
What advice would you have for a young immigrant, multi-generational American in being motivated and working hard? Do you have any direct applications for staying motivated and consistent to get the life that you want?
Yes,
Something that worked for you?
They have to work hard. Don't expect everybody else to give you a hand all the time. Don't expect the government. Don't expect your school or your community center to help you. You have to help yourself and move on. They have to work hard. That's the thing. If they don't work hard, they won't move up. They have to work hard. I have so many students work in my office. They call shadowing, and so many. One Vietnamese girl was a boat people. Okay, she came with living here in Garden Grove, Garden Grove, Fullerton area. Garden Grove, Westminster area, and she wanted to be a doctor. She didn't get admission. She went to West Indies, became a doctor. Now she is doing residency in Michigan. Her younger brother are Vietnamese, also from Vietnam, and he's doing neuropsychology in Washington, Seattle. And I have several people from my office who shadowed me or worked during summertime. They are in medical field.
How important is it to have someone like yourself willing to have people below you and for you to show them the way, to help them?
I help a lot.
Like,
I work in shelter for homeless. I work in shelter for homeless in Santa Ana and Fullerton. There's 601 East Warner Avenue. There's a shelter for homeless. And then now it's all disrupted because of the COVID.
Oh, sorry. No, to shadow. So I imagine you had people that helped you in your journey, and now you, of course, are servicing and helping people in their journey. How important is it to have those positive influences in your life? Do you think it's critical?
Yes, it is important to share what you have, and who helped you, you help. Even if people didn't help me, some were bitter, etc., I still don't hold on to that. I don't remember, and I forget about it, but I keep moving. And I like to have people coming and shadowing me and move up to whatever they do. Every week, every month, I ask someone, I say, what are your goals? Are you moving up with your goal? I have 11 people working now in our office. It's not my office. We have other doctors also. So I ask them, and they are moving up. I keep an eye on them.
And you truly want to help them. You want them to succeed.
Yes. And I said, you don't want to get stuck in a little eye doctor's office working as a receptionist. You do something, go to college in the evening, move up and do something that will have a more, prosperous life.
And you help provide that for 34 grandchildren.
Right. Yes. They are all very happy. Sometimes my husband passed away last year, and sometimes I wonder. I said, if something happens, my daughters are in East Coast, something happens, then who will take care of me? So the two of my grandson and my adopted daughter, they all have in computer with signature, lawyer signature, that if something happens to me, they'll come and take care of me.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that your husband passed away last year.
Yes, last year. He died of prostate cancer.
That's really common with men,
yes.
Right? And it speaks to the cells degenerating.
Right,
and
that it went up, right, yeah.
Well, you're an incredible woman, and thank you so much for coming and talking to me. And your book, Hope and Sight, is available on Amazon and some Barnes and Nobles that are left as well, right?
It says only 30 chapters. After I finished the book, I wrote 10 more chapters. They are on computer.
Cool. Okay, cool. And this describes all of the countries that you've gone
visited,
to,
right, and what I saw, and not all, because I wrote this book in a hurry because of my family history, where most people die of brain hemorrhage. My mom, my sister, and my mom's sister, somehow this is, anterior cerebral artery aneurysm. It ruptures and brain. So I didn't want to wait. So I wrote this book in a hurry. But the other 10 chapters on computer, I went to Syria, Lebanon, and Fiji Island, etc. They are all on computer.
And you were servicing the poor and
that's right,
everyone's
yes,
eyes all,
yes,
all around the
yes,
world. That's
yes,
the whole
yes,
point of
of
this
writing
is
this book. Yeah.
describing your story of
Right.
going around the world.
Just to encourage people.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what you've done, and
Right. I'm very pleased.
I appreciate your help. You help heal my eyes too. So, yeah, I really appreciate it, and thank you for coming on.
Yes.
And with that being said, you guys, talking goes a long way, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.